You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Amanda Johnson.
Hi, how are you?
So, Amanda, I'm doing amazing because you're about to inform me and the listeners about who you are and what do you do professionally.
Okay. Well, I do two things professionally. One is I run my own podcast called This Shit Right Here, and we're a little bit over a year in production with that, so it's been really good. What I do for a living, what pays the bills, is I work at a security awareness training company that's based here in Clearwater, Florida.
You said a security ordinance training
Awareness.
So what types of things do you deal with? What does that even like? I have no idea what that job description does. Immediately I think of UPS and then I think of Paul Blart. So I'm getting two different interpretations of probably what it is.
It's pretty confusing when people first hear about it. I have to take my time and explain it to a lot of my friends. Security awareness training is what we create software as a service, kind of like Netflix. So you pay for our service where we have content that trains your users not to click on phishing links, how to protect your company against hackers that can hit you with ransomware and different types of viruses that can shut you down. So your first wall of defense are your employees, because you can have as much antivirus as you want, but if somebody gets in through social engineering, then that antivirus isn't going to do shit. So you need to train your employees on how to identify and not click on phishing links that they get via email, their phones, and so on. So what I do within the company is I work on the international side with our sales team as a project coordinator.
Wow, that is a lot of stuff. Let me tell you, you know how helpful you would be in my life just when I'm searching up things at 2:00 in the morning on the internet. It's never good. My computer always pops up the next day saying, you have a virus. I'm like, from what? Like maybe the movies you were trying to watch illegally. I'm like, oh.
That could do it.
I think that does it. It's definitely not all the other dirty stuff I put my search history on incognito for.
No, of course not.
No, those are all correct ways. No, but it's crazy because like, how do you go from that to doing? I mean, like, how does that affect you in just your everyday life when you're looking up things online? Are you more aware of like things that shouldn't be happening? Because I know at one point in our country, there was a giant scare of people that were using the webcam and watching you when you weren't using it. Like they would just have it turn on.
And that's accurate. We actually were just going over how your Google Home and your Alexa will continuously listen to you. And hackers are now utilizing that technology in order to gain information to where they can listen in on your conversations at home and access passwords and social engineer you that way.
Yeah.
So it's scary.
There was a podcast with Edward Snowden. I don't know if you know too much about this guy, but
I do.
That wiki leaked all those things about the government watching you, all these search sites that you're using. And I'm like, it makes sense. Is how many times are you talking about something, not looking it up on your phone, but then you get an advertisement for that exact thing you were talking about.
So that's a very common thing. Are you aware of Kevin Mitnick?
I am not.
Kevin Mitnick was one of the world's most famous hackers. So he was a huge black hat hacker where he would hack different types of, one of his famous ones, which was funny, that he likes to tell when he does conferences, is he hacked a McDonald's drive-through. And so when people would drive up, he would mess with the orders, give them messed up things. If a cop would pull up, they would say, quick, hide the cocaine and all this stuff just to kind of fuck with the drive-through people. So that was one of the things that he did. But he went on the run because he was hacking the FBI, he was hacking the NSA, he was hacking different types of government companies. So it ended up putting him on the world's most wanted list. And they caught him, put him in jail. And then when he finally did his time and came out, he turned it around and became a white hat hacker. So now he goes to other companies, finds their holes and helps them fix it when it comes to their infrastructure and how bad guys can gain the access.
Man, hacking drive-thrus. I mean, what's next? First of all, you're trying to order a McGriddle and then you get a pound of marijuana. You're like, whoa, this was not the I'm loving it I'm talking about at the moment.
Right. He's a pretty interesting guy. I've gotten to meet him a couple of times, but he has some really cool stories about things that he's hacked before.
Do you find that you're less reliable in technology as you've kind of progressed farther into your job?
Absolutely. One thing that I did start doing is I no longer am present on social media as a individual. I only have social media now for our podcasts. So I pulled myself off of social media. As an example, one of the things that I discovered is a lot of people like to do this on Facebook. What type of mythical creature are you? And they do all these quizzes on finding out what type of mythical creature they are or what house they would fit in Harry Potter. But what those quizzes are designed to do is to social engineer you and find out personal things like your first dog's name or what first car you had. And those type of things are common for people to use as passwords.
Damn, I need to
So-
stop testing those quizzes when it asks me what my favorite 90s hood snack was. And I'm like answering like, I like something that's cold. If I was going to live somewhere, it'd be near the beach. And then it's like, yo, you would be a Rice Krispies treat. I was like, oh, okay. That makes sense, I guess.
Yes, and that's actually data mining you. That's pulling in information in order to figure out what type of passwords you could potentially use. And that's where a lot of the issues come, especially with Facebook, because you have the friends who like to pop up and say, hey, answer in 20 questions things that people wouldn't know about you. And again, that's social engineering where they're trying to gain access to your personal information.
Now they're not even doing that on an app. Someone dares them and says, if you don't repost this on your wall and answer the questions or whatever, then next thing you know, you lose or something. You have to do something. And it's like, I'm seeing it like my grandma will put up something like, ever been married? Yes. Ever done this? Yes. Ever. I'm like, what the hell? You're giving out a lot of information. It's not even through data mining. You're just straight up being open about it. You get to see people like, that's when I think social media went a little too far. People are becoming way more public than they're supposed to be because I feel like our boundaries changed as a society. We went from never talking about our bullshit to always talking about our bullshit. And now it seems like we can never get enough of it. Like we just want to know everyone. I want to know you're feeling bad too. I'm like, Jesus, man, do you have to Instagram your food before you eat it? Like for me, I'm tearing down a slate of pancakes if it lays right in front of me. There's no picture. I'll give you an after picture when I'm sitting there in a food coma, but that's it.
And that's true. I mean, not to age myself here, but when I grew up, there was no Facebook. There was none of that. There was no internet in everyone's house. So for me, thankfully, I did all my stupid shit before it could ever be posted online. But I'm seeing it now with the younger generation, and it's saddening because you're putting all your information out there for people to judge you.
Yeah, like
Not
I went to school for psychology because I was really obsessed with mental health. I started with chemical dependency and then branched off into psychology because I started realizing that there's this technology thing. I have friends that are full reliant on it, okay? My buddy's house is Amazon Alexa up. You walk up to the door, you ring the doorbell, it says, hello, welcome to, and then says his name and then says household. And then it's I'm like, what's happening? And they're like, please state your name. And I'll say my name or something. And then I'll alert him on his phone that I'm there. And I'm like, it's a whole process. I'm like, come to the fucking door, open it up. He's like, I don't know if you're the mail person. I don't know if you're someone trying to sell something. I'm like, you came through, you looked through the little peephole and you found out, okay? You had to get off your lazy ass for 5 minutes. I started freaking out when Alexa started controlling the toilet. That's my private spot. No way. No freaking way. He has a sensor bar that hooks to his toilet where Amazon, Alexa, whatever, will flush it for you.
that's too much. That's just beyond lazy.
That's like when, they had the clapper. You can clap and the next, the lights turn on. That's a little bit too lazy too. Like I still like him being like, Alexa, lights off or lights dim. I don't like that. I really don't. It sucks. I'm lazy, but I also want to get up and flick the light switch and know that it's reliant on me to do that. I feel like once you have technology running your house, I mean, we literally have a center in the government called Center for Existential Risk. And they literally monitor things like fucking Skynet from Terminator, things you would be joking about. There's 6 people right now that we're relying on. Hopefully that technology will not rise above us. And they get funded $500 million a year.
Well, at the end of the day, we are lucky enough that no technology, no matter what, will ever mirror a human being's brain. I mean, the quantum computer is now alive and well. That's available now. And people were really freaking out about that. Quantum computing became this huge Skynet type fear. And now we have them. They're operating, they're functional. And at this point, the world didn't end. Nothing went live.
Well, I think the biggest fear was that in like 1978, they built the first supercomputer, and then they built another one, and they found that after a while, they were communicating on a frequency using some type of coding or something that was like a secret language that we couldn't interpret. So then we ended up shutting it down. And that was a big scare for people. But now you're seeing things like, robots like Sophia now has rights in Saudi Arabia. Basically, like the women are getting rights there, and so is this robot. You're like, what is happening right now? Like, she can drive. Like, it's taking this long to trust humans to do things, but we're easily trusting a robot at a faster rate because they're supposed to be better. But if you ever saw Whitney Cummings, I don't know if you know who she is, the comedian.
Oh yeah.
Well, her comedy special, where it's literally like your podcast name, This Shit Right Here. She brought a clone or one of those robots on stage.
Oh, Sexbot.
Yeah. This brings up a good point because Bill Burr cracked a joke on it. He says, once you fuck that thing, you're never going to go back.
No, I don't agree with that. And
I'm a guy, and I can tell you when it comes down to something that's just going to be there, I don't like that aspect, but I know like to easily get what you want like that, like that's why there's people like Bill Cosby. That's why there's people like, it's a whole submissive factor. There would be a large dramatic change. Not only like I prefer real interaction, but the whole concept of like, that's always going to be in the back of your mind. I kind of relate it to like when you try a drug or something, you're always going to remember what that drug is like. That monkey's always going to be on your back.
And that's a fair analogy to go with it. But when it comes to, and Whitney Cummings brought up a very good point when she did her comedy on that, because I did watch it and I thought it was very interesting. But when you're looking at the whole aspect of, well, sex bots are going to take over the world, sex bots, as far as, women's role in the bedroom, she brought up a very good point. If you're afraid of a sex bot taking over your role in the bedroom, then you're not doing it good enough.
Oh, damn. That's a good point.
Because the sex bot's not responding back. It just basically lays there.
I just know so many people that are like, why would I? I know too many kids that's going to start off what we would consider nerds that would be like, what? This is my girlfriend. I am dating a Megan Fox robot. And it's like, okay. And then I know people that will be like, man, she just doesn't get me. So I'm going to go with my robot, at least where I don't have to get all the slack back. But I'm like, I like that. I like the interaction. I work out every day, so my testosterone, I burn it off in the gym. So I'm not really needing to go and, frisk everything out on the street. So I prefer real contact. That sounds weird for a kid my age. But, I like having that connection, someone I can actually talk to and sit with, like at least be able to bond over something. I mean, you don't want to sit there and feel like the only thing you connect over is something like that.
And agree. At the end of the day, you're not going to have a conversation with a robot. You're not going to have an emotional, well, some people will have an emotional attachment to a robot. And if they do, good for them. But women aren't going to want guys like that. So that's fine. Because if that's where they want to be in their lives, then hey, you got to find your special way. But agreed, you need to have that conversation. You need to have communication. You need to have that other person's brain to stimulate you. And a robot's never going to do that. So I'm not worried about robots taking over the bedroom because that's not going to happen.
I think it's just the weirdest aspect of that. We're always kind of in love with the idea of artificial intelligence, but we're also afraid of where it can go. Because it seems like any type of technology and thing or problem that we had in our life, that problem came from that invention. I mean, it came from that technological advancement. Back in the day, our grandparents or whoever didn't have to deal with social media, didn't have to deal with all this negative influence on their head. They didn't have to deal with just the news playing all this trash and people getting shot and making you feel depressed when you walk out of the street. Their thing was the paper. It gave them a small little list of things, and then there was a joke on the back. Now you get, media constantly just throwing 6 kids were shot today, 6 this, and you're going to school like that. I know my little cousin, his mom's watching the news just in the kitchen making him lunch, and he's sitting down eating cereal. He's 7 years old and watching the news, like just hearing all this stuff, and he's like not fully understanding what's going on, and that's what starts to create a numb society. Starts to create people that are numb to emotions. Oh, it's just another shooting. Oh, it's just another shooting. I hate to say it, but we're getting so used to it now because it's like the same old rerun of the same shit. It's like, we get it. It happens. I mean, that was like that before. It's not like it's just a giant new thing popping up, but you're seeing kids experience anxiety at such a young age. I did a case study in the fact that now you're seeing 12-year-olds, 8-year-olds experiencing high level of anxiety. And it's because of the cell phone.
Well, it's more than just the cell phone. So I have a 9-year-old, and with our son, we started seeing anxiety issues developing in him because of the way the school systems are run, the way that they teach to test now, the way that they constantly push a shit ton of homework on these children, unrealistic expectations, because not every child learns to test. They can learn to understand. My child seeks to understand. And when you're putting him in this box that he doesn't fit in, then he's going to feel like a fish trying to climb a tree. And it didn't work for him. And we were seeing that snowballing into him having anxiety and confidence issues. And we ended up moving him into a private school that doesn't do that. And the change was dramatic. But it's not just the kids having the anxiety. Well, yes, cell phones, I believe, is a huge issue. Having the technology, we don't allow our son to watch TV except on Fridays and Saturdays. And we've seen the change in him with his imagination doing that. But it's also, you're putting yourself out there. Teenagers, they're putting their pictures out there on Instagram or Facebook or so on, and they're relying on strangers to give them value, to give them worth based off of their external appearance or their social media face, which is not really who they are, because they're hiding behind filters.
It's false communication is what it is. What I call false communication is the fact that I've said it before in the podcast, but it's true. It's you go home after a long ass day and you complain. When you're looking for someone to talk to, just someone that, if you talk to your husband, if you talk to your kids and you had a real moment with them, they would get more feedback from that than if they went onto social media and posted something about their rough day and then someone liked it. But the thing is called false communication. It's that acceptance. That one like is a good pat on the back. But every time you have a problem like that and you turn to social media to post it on there to see if people care about you, you get 1 like, 2 like, 3 like, then the like number keeps increasing. Eventually, that next post you do won't have 10 likes. It'll have 8 likes, 7 likes, 6 likes. Then you find that feeling, that acceptance, that love that you would get if you just talked to a family member or a close friend that actually truly cared about you, that one individual, you don't have that same feeling anymore. You have like, oh, I guess no one cares about me anymore. I might as well. And then it creates a whole line of depression. It's
Right.
not just, you're right. It's not just cell phones. It's technology in general. Back in the day, if you got your ass kicked at school, if you got bullied, it stopped at fucking school. It didn't go home with you. You didn't go as soon as you get home. Hey, did you hear someone posted the video of you getting your ass kicked? What? Oh, and next thing I know, the kids are looking up all these stuff. The amount of depression and anxiety through social media, and also where it hits them so hard, but then they end up forgetting about it and they end up posting something very, very vulnerable of themselves, such as them in a dress, such as them in, a tank top or something. Then people look at their faults, and that's what we've been as a society. We've adopted this normal culture of judging others constantly. We do it every day without even really realizing we're doing it, whether it's, oh, he has this, I don't have that. He has this, I don't have that. Oh, he looks like this. It takes, they always make fun of like women. They take forever to get ready to go out. That's not just women anymore. That's everyone. Nobody goes to the store in sweatpants anymore. Everyone's got to dolly up. I'm like, me? It's 4:00 in the fucking morning. I'm wearing sweatpants. I'm going to the grocery store and I'm getting me some freaking oranges and a pineapple. I don't care. Nobody's there, but still at the same time, I've lived my life on my looks because I was made fun of through school. I was bullied. And this was when social media was taken off. So it had a bigger grasp. I mean, I remember kids online changing their gamer tag just to make fun of me. And they were my friends. They were supposed to be my friends. They thought it was in a joking way. But at this time, I was experiencing my parents separating, so I was sensitive. And it was a difficult, rough time where I just needed a friend to kind of console in me. And I ended up being introvert. But I tell people, it's not the answer ever. It never is. It's like if you ever play the game Sims, where the ones you actually control the people. It's a
Right.
wonderful game, but it shows the humanistic side and the real side of life when it comes to the social skill. You have all these other skills, food, shower, all these things that go down at a fast rate, but that social skill decreases slowly and slowly. After a while, You start to get really upset and get really depressed because you're not communicating anymore. You feel like your life is just an endless cycle. And that's when we want to break out and we want to end up like I did, became extrovert, started talking to people again. And, realizing that we're all living on this earth together, but no one's taking the time to address each other anymore. We gloss over the people.
Exactly. And that's where a lot of relationships have that wall that they hit. And I see it too many times, older generation. I see a lot of the people that I went to school with, or a lot of the people that I'm friends with, and they're on their second or third marriage. And with myself and my husband, we did a podcast on communication. So shameless plug right there. But the podcast was based off of how we developed our relationship. So very early on, one of our main things was you need to have open, honest communication. If you do something that bothers me, I'm going to tell you right then and there, and vice versa. So that way it doesn't build up 3 months later and then you explode on them. If somebody is genuinely in love with you or genuinely wants to be in your life, then they're going to treat you with that respect. And if they're not treating you with that respect, then there's a communication barrier right there, or they just don't need to be in your life. So either you work it out and resolve whatever the issue is right then and there, and you don't hold on to it until later and blow up 3 months later and say, well, 3 months you did this, that's bullshit. Fix it right then and there, and then you have active open communication. We've been married 11 years as of last Friday, and we've never had a full-blown fight. We've never called each other a name. We've never disrespected each other.
I think it's a lot of people bring it up the point, oh, marriage is 50-50. No, it's not. It's 100-100. If you're doing 50% of the work, then there's still 50% that you still need to do, okay?
Exactly.
That's like half-assing your homework. And we can talk about the shitty education system. For me, education system when I was growing up was dog crap. The easiest thing was to send me out. I have ADHD. Back then, the only answer was medicating. That was it. There was no other alternative forms. And seeing it now, how far it's came in my own area, my own county, they now look at nutrition. They look at these types of things. I had very few teachers give me a shot. 3 to be exact. One was on my podcast on New Year's Day, and she still believes in to me this day. She's like, I always knew you were going to be something. Just because you had a little bit more energy than everyone else, I worked with you. You like drums, so I gave you eraser caps on your pencils to drum on the desk. And she would do little simple stuff like that. But even talking to her and seeing that 30 years later, she's still affecting kids from her start. She's still coming on a part of these kids' lives, finding that they live in a bad home, that they, their parents are poor or something, don't have money to feed them. I've talked about this over and over again. Like, I've seen a dramatic change in it from when they thought I was mentally challenged because of my ADHD. I just couldn't sit still. Nothing was going in my head that I wasn't interested in. And even to this day, like, I still struggle with it. I don't ever really sleep, but I've learned to kind of control myself a little bit. I've learned to level out, become, this is just a part of me. I might as well use it to my benefit rather than a curse.
Right.
And it's all about trying to, like I said before, we're living on this world. There's so much good shit about this place, and there's a lot of bad shit. But if you start dwelling on all the bad shit, you create a very false perception of everything. Whether it's like, oh, well, my parents never made it, so my relationship's never going to work. Oh, my parents didn't go to college, so I'll never go to college. It's like you're already drowning yourself with so much bad influence. You want to talk about something that's real. It's the energy that is around us. I'm not talking about a mystical being, but I'm talking about emotions we give off. Giving a sense of empathy creates a type of realness and a connection with communities. This is why when you look at a small community, they're so closely knit together. Everybody knows each other. But like you were saying before, with your child, like that structure of the school, it wants them to do, and your kid's more about questioning and kind of doing that type of style. That's with most of the education system and most of the roles in life today, because they want you to work the classic gym that works the 9 to 5. A lot of fucking people don't work the gym that's 9 to 5. I know so many people that would rather die than work in an office setting, me being one of them. I like to be outside. I like to be in nature. I like to be somewhere where I have a sense of being free. I never liked being locked up. I never liked being confined to anywhere.
No, and totally agree. The office that I work in isn't really an office. I was just sitting on a beanbag with my laptop 20 minutes ago. Don't spit your drink out.
That is
But
classic. I
But
love
that's what we had. I had my feet propped up on a chair and I'm sitting on an orange bean bag and I have a laptop in my hand while I'm eating a piece of cake. And that was my life. And I'm overlooking this view of downtown Clearwater where I'm seeing the bay and water. And it's beautiful. And that's the type of environment that I work in where it's fun and everyone enjoys themselves and people go to work in pajamas
and it's
and
like
onesies.
it's crazy because there's so many people thinking like, oh, life is crap. Like if you live in a city, it's kind of hard, because there's so many people closely knit together. This is what I think is also another influence on why the world, at least our country and things, are kind of going in a really bad direction because of the sight of overpopulation. Now, I'm pretty sure you can agree that it's not really we're not really meant to live together or see each other on a daily basis when it comes to the fact, like, if you lock yourself in the house with your family every single day, nobody's leaving, everybody's staying home for a good couple months, somebody's reaching for a butter knife. I do that with my own family. You start to get at each other's throats a little bit, but it's only because we find people we can handle, that we can learn to live with, that we can cope with, that make us our own community. And, when you build a family. But even then, there are moments where someone has to go to work. There's that space because you still need time with your individual self and your own thoughts as well. Even if you just go, hey, don't talk to me. I need some time alone. And then you sit in silence. You need that time to recuperate because we're not meant to be around each other. But the problem is now with overpopulation becoming such a major thing, we're getting stressed out really, really bad. And we tend to take it out. Our problem solving is shit. It's that shit right there. Hashtag podcast name drop. But it's the same concept of we're not problem solving effectively. So we come home, get depressed, and go to bed. Or we take our problems out on things around us and we get overwhelmed, start screaming at people and causing negative energy everywhere. The problem is once you get stuck with a bunch of negative energy output, especially in a high populated area, it feels like tar. Like you can't get out of it. You end up being consumed. Like you were having a great day and some dude's like, why are you so fucking happy? You're like, oh, I actually just kind of won $50 off the scratch off. Oh, you think you're big shit? You won $50? Oh, big guy with the $50. It's like, damn, man, you're really taking the fun out of this for me.
Oh, see, I don't let people do that to me though. Because anytime I'm in a good mood, I'm in a good mood. One of the best things that I learned over time and I instill in my son is the most important relationship you're ever going to have in your life is the one you have with yourself. You need to learn how to be happy with yourself because happiness comes from you, no one else. My husband doesn't make me happy. I'm happy when I'm with my husband because he lets me be me. He's a grown ass man, I'm a grown ass woman, and we don't try and tell each other what to do and how to live our lives. We live them together as separate people in one marriage. My son needs to learn how to be happy by himself so that he doesn't feel like he needs to be around people to make him happy. And that's what we're teaching him. And we have our own way of doing that where we do a lot of things together as a family, but we also make sure that each one of us has time completely by ourselves where we go into separate rooms in the house and we do our own thing because you have to recharge yourself and you can't do it when you're feeding on other people's energy.
Yeah, and
And you just can't.
it sucks because like recharging is definitely very important because I think a lot of people aren't doing that right. They choose like there are two really types of people in this world. There are like people that are like to be out during the day and associate with others and get that whole thing. And they end up getting drained pretty easily. It feels like after a work day, they just want to go home and relax because how many times nowadays you're seeing people that, I choose self checkout. I'm pretty sure you probably do at times too. It's because every time I try and choose, going to the actual register, I go, hey, how's your day going? They immediately go, don't get me started about my day. And I'm like, shit, I was just trying to buy a cabbage. That is all I want. Like, yeah, you like that random food I threw in there?
Cabbage, sure.
I'm a health nut, so that's cabbage. I had to pick that one. And it's crazy because I'm like, damn, I didn't want all this. And then they just start berating you with problems to the point where you literally, it's like talking to someone who has a wet towel personality where life is just so bland and boring. You're like, damn, I really feel drained after you. I mean, I experienced this because when I took psychology, we had to watch case studies. We had one case study we had to really watch. It was a long hour video. You had to watch one a week, and I would choose Monday morning. I'm insomniac. I would choose 3 a.m. I'm watching that sucker. I get done all my homework for the rest of the week, so I'm set. I come down at 6 o'clock in the morning. My mom's going into work. They go, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Nobody talk to me right now. I really need some time alone," because I would watch a kid with schizophrenia try and set his family's house on fire. I would watch people try and commit suicide after a drug addiction and not being able to cope. And I'm like, oh, it's like getting hit with so much stuff. Like, it's like trying to go on stage and be a comedian after you just read a book about 9/11. Like, you're not going to think clear-minded at all. That stuff tolls in your head.
Absolutely. And for me, I'm an audiobook fan because I don't have the time to sit down and read like I used to. So anytime I'm going to the store, I'm actually very introverted, ironically. And a lot of people don't realize that when they meet me. So I'm a forced extrovert where externally I am looking like a social butterfly, but internally I'd rather be sitting at home, not talking to anyone. And that's what I prefer. So when I go to the store by myself, or if I need to do an errand, I put on headphones and listen to an audiobook so that no one feels that they can approach me. And it seems a bit mean, but in my world, I'm not being mean. I'm setting that boundary, letting you know that I don't want to talk to you right now. I don't want to hear about your day, because emotional vampires are real and they will just suck your energy out of you and suck the good day out of you.
It's funny because if you ever saw me outside, you would probably think like, oh, he's a talkative guy. He's very social. No, my buddy's like, dude, why aren't you talking right now? I'm like, dude, I've been talking all fucking day with people from Africa to Australia to wherever, dude. Like, I've been associating. Like, I come home, like, my family be like, why aren't you talking, dude? Like, how's your day going? I'm like, dude, it's going good, man. Well, you're not giving me any conversation. I'm like, dude, I'm drained, bro. Man, I've been having conversations since like today, 1 a.m. I've been having conversations since 1 a.m. It's like, it's fun for me. I love doing it. But at the same time, it's like you feel full sometimes too, where one night you're just like, damn, I really just don't really feel like saying a word. I'm silent. I got no thoughts going on. And for me, it's like, I say this and you're going to hear it and you're going to be like, what? What do you mean? I hate people. I really do.
No.
Well,
you're good company.
No, no. But when I say that is like, I hate people as in I hate the ones that we show in the world today, that display image, the default one, the one that will walk by you and go, as they're walking by you, hey, how's your day going? Still walking? No, I don't answer you when you do that. I'm going to stop if I ask you how your day's going, and I'm going to ask you and I'm going to talk to you and I want to know. I want to because I wouldn't ask the question in the first place. So I hate the default answers we give. Oh, I'm doing okay, when really you just lost a loved one. Or, we're living on autopilot. That's what I hate about people. I want to get the person one-on-one conversation and listen to your interests, stuff you want to talk about, a conversation with you, not a conversation with whoever you go and show out like, oh, she does this, she does this. No, you have a side to you that no one else sees. You have something that you're afraid to show, or you have something that you really, really love that you just don't show to people. And I want to see that. I want to see that rise out of you.
Where I've gotten to be comfortable in my life is when you're talking to someone, especially someone new, someone always knows something that you don't. And having that genuine, active listening conversation with them, you're going to learn something. But people want to surround themselves with like-minded people, and you're not going to learn anything when you do that. You're allowed to have differences. That's what makes the world unique. That's what makes the world exciting. Go and talk to somebody that's outside of your normal circle. Talk to someone who's on the different side of the political fence. Talk to someone who's of a different race or nationality, and truly listen to what they're saying. You don't have to agree with them, but you can at least understand where they're coming from. Get that knowledge, because that's how you're going to expand your mind. So I love talking to people. And thankfully for me, I work with internationals. So I get to talk to people who are from different walks of life all the time. And it absolutely opens my mind to the world. And I feel makes me more of a better mom, a better person, a better wife, because I can see the different perspectives. But people are so focused on waiting for their turn to talk that they're not listening to the other person, not listening to the conversation, not really learning anything.
I've been a minority my whole life. And I know I say that, you're like, you're white. What are you talking about? Well, I work in a hotel. I'm a housekeeping. and the dominant majority of the staff is Latino or Black. I'm the only white person on the staff. I had two options to choose where I want to go to college coming up for my bachelor's, and it's either I could choose to go to a all-white college. There's literally a Starbucks, a Panera Bread, all this stuff on the campus, so it's pretty white. I looked at their website. I think there's like one Black person in the directory section, or I could choose to go to University of Eastern Shore, which is I'd be paid to go to college there because I'd be a minority. And I remember when when the counselor asked me, which do you prefer? Would you like to go to this school? You just have to pay $8,000. I'm like, I'll choose the other one, but you're going to be a minority. I've been a minority my whole life. I've never fit in, and I've never judged. And that's taught me as a person never to judge on skin, but to respect the person. And also, there's so much things like I work with foreigners too. I work with kids coming from Romania and Bulgaria. I've had them on my podcast. I remember one, he does something a little bit strange to others, but I understand it. Knowing a little bit about psychology, I learned it's his environmental background on it. So I sat down with him one time, and I remember everyone inside making fun of him, like, oh, he tries to share his coffee. Like, it's an open coffee, and he offers it to you to share it. And I sat down with him outside, and he's drinking his coffee. He looks over at me when I sit down and goes to hand it to me. And I'm like, I'm good, man. I'm like, people don't like that in there, right? And he goes, yeah, they say I'm weird. And I'm like, you're not weird. You know why I think you do that? He goes, why? I'm like, I'm guessing you come from a big family. You don't have a lot back home. He goes, yeah, I have. And he names off like 4 or 5 brothers and sisters. And I'm like, so everything you had, you learned to share, correct? He goes, yeah, there are 2 of us to a bed. And I was like, that's why, man, you tried to offer me your coffee, because even something you have, you're willing to share because that's how you were raised. And a lot of people wouldn't see that mindset, especially someone my age wouldn't see that. They wouldn't understand that. And that was all a benefit from school, but that's education I had to do on my own. It changed when I got to college and I got to pick the classes I wanted to do because I started finding out what I wanted about people. And like you were saying before too, about small knit communities and group mind, we live in this hive thinking society. We all have to do this, get what we want, or if someone has fame, grab a piece of that, try and hitch a ride on their thing. And it's like, this comes from church too. It's why I was a little bit questionable about church. It's why I always say I'm open-minded. I've understand where religion's a benefit for so many people. Someone I work with, her husband is completely paralyzed and she turned to God and has been faithful ever since. I can understand that. But also there are churches that'll excommunicate you. There are Christian religions, there are Catholic religions that'll excommunicate you from everything, because as soon as you start raising questions, you're not thinking like them anymore. And if you're not like-minded, then you can get the fuck out. And I really, really hate that, because I try and stay as open-minded as possible, whether we agree, whether whatever. There's never an argument. It's just we didn't come to the same conclusion on things. And that's because we're all raised completely different. Our brains are meant to think completely different from one another. After a while, we can sync on the same wavelength. But overall, we're our own unique individuals that are living a life that only we can control.
Absolutely. My sister and I are extremely close. We're only 2 years apart. And the life that we grew up in was not ideal. We were minorities. We grew up in the ghetto. I mean, for lack of a better word, we were the only 2 white kids in there. And as we started getting older and progressing, and my mother started getting better with moving us into better neighborhoods. Yes. It's still the primary part of Tampa, which is where we were raised in, is Black and Spanish. So that's pretty much where we sat. So like you, we were minorities, but we grew up in the exact same household. We grew up with the same experiences in our lives, but we can't look at it that way. Her and I had very much different childhoods, even though we grew up in the same way, because we're different people. We took the experiences in different ways. So no one can say that they can understand you completely, because they're not you. So to sit there and classify people in a group, well, we're all Christians, or we're all Muslims, or we're all Buddhists, or we're all Black, we're all Spanish, we're all Asian. Each person's different. And yeah, you may have a similar background, or you may have a similar nationality or religion or whatever, but your experiences every single day, even if you experience the exact same thing, you're going to get something different from it, because your mind is always unique. So my sister and I always use this when we're talking on our, she comes to our podcast quite a bit because she's fucking hilarious. If you ever get a chance, she's so funny. But her and I are so incredibly close. We even work together. Our experiences are so different. Anytime you hear us talk about our childhoods, it's different experiences.
Yeah, we all come from different walks of life. Like I know people that would immediately assume, oh, you're just a punk ass kid. I remember we had a group of these kids called H2OI kids that came to our popular tourist town during the summer. There, we almost went to a state of emergency. We had state troopers come from Baltimore all the way down here just to be able for this instance, because a bunch of 20-year-old kids in really fast cars doing dangerous, stupid shit in the middle of the streets at night around people. They're terrorizing, flipping cars, acting a bunch of like dumbass kids. Basically, it was the worst thing ever, and I really felt bad about it because I would go to get gas and I had three elderly people curse at me and they said, fuck you, get out of our town. I'm like, bro, I live here. Like, I have a Kia Soul, man. I'm not doing burnouts. I don't have turbo in it. It's a square box car. The bumper's cracked down on the front of it. You can hear it sometimes when I hit a curb or something. You hear it go, like the whole thing's scratched. Like, my car's a hunk of shit, man. I'm lucky he gets me down the road. But I look at him and I'm like, you don't know me, man. Like I'm sorry that you feel that way, but that's not me. I hold the door open for people and I always get the same response. Well, I wouldn't think you would do that. What do you think? I'm some punk ass kid? That's not me though. You got to understand me. The best part anybody can ever describe me is not that I'm a good person or a bad person, is that he's Robbie. And people are like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Well, you just have to take where he stands. He's going to say some dumb shit, but he's very intelligent. And I'm like, yeah, I'm very smart. Okay. I hate to give myself that credit or that pat on the back, but I don't like being that way. I like joking around. I like having a sense of humor. I like cracking a fart joke at a funeral or something, trying to create a better mood, because when I feel the tension in the air, the weight of it, like someone just put a lead vest on me, I want to help out. I want to just get that tension off my back and off everyone else's. I've had great wisdom in my life. I've never judged. I judge people on how you treat others, such as if you treat me with respect, I treat you with respect. That's also an authority aspect in my head. Like if you try and boss me around to do something, like all my supervisors know, you got to ask Robbie to do something. And I'm like, what do you mean ask him? I'm the boss. Like, no. That's not going to fly with him. It'll go in one ear and out the other. And it's not that I'm just like that type of guy. It's just I love being talked to like I'm an individual. Like I give the same respect to anybody that shows me kindness. Anybody that treats me the way I would want to be treated, saying hello, saying hi. And it's that simple, because we all have stories. We all have experiences. You can't judge a person based on what they drive, what they wear, or what smile they put on their face, because behind that, they could be hiding a bunch of cracks and pain.
And that's true. And the way that I look at it is age doesn't automatically give you knowledge and experience. I know people who are in their 60s and 70s who, to me, are extremely childish and haven't learned any lessons in life. Whereas you are 21 years old and you have a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience, and a really unique perspective on life that most kids your age would not have. Getting older each year does not automatically come with the knowledge that you need to be a better person. That comes with you sitting down and going, okay, this is the shit about myself that I don't like. This is the shit about the world that I don't like. What can I do to make it better? What can I do to help the person that I see needs help? What can I do to fix the shit that's in me that I'm unhappy with, that's making me feel like shit? And you can do that at the age of 20. You can do that at the age of 16. You can do that at the age of 70. As long as you're still fucking alive, you can change that part of your life. But there are people who've lived their whole lives not learning a damn thing. And then you have people who are 16, 17, 18, 21 that have already learned those life experiences and are already seeing that this is the way to be better.
And I've only learned all this from podcasting too. I mean, a lot of it came on my own, but also at the same time, when I realized like there's really something about people that's interesting that I really need to get in a small conversation. I had people give me amazing advice in times of very, very hard things. And I realized we're all experiencing this world together, but no one's able to break out and do their own thing or feel like they can ever get out of anything. They feel like their life is just set perfectly for them. And once I started realizing that people thought this way too, I said, let's get this into a conversation. And, I have my friends, they crack jokes like, you're an old ass. And I'm like, am I an old ass? Like, dude, you're not going out to the bar and drinking with us. And I'm like, are you Ubering? No, man, I'm going to drive. all right, bro, hey, do me a favor, text me when you leave the bar or when you want to leave, and I'll come pick you up, because, dude, it's not worth going to jail. It's not worth doing this. And I start listing off things. Oh, bro, you're thinking too far ahead. No, I'm not thinking too far ahead. I just realized that every action has usually some type of reaction to it. And next thing you know, that reaction could probably not be good. It's not going to be the Taco Bell that you want at 2:00 in the morning. It's going to be probably handcuffs and a DUI, buddy.
And that's true. As I've gotten in my 20s, my first response was always reaction. I didn't think. And I got very lucky that I didn't end up dead. But as I've gotten older, and especially since I became a mom, my first thought is always, if I do this, what are the ripple effects? How is this going to impact my future, my child's future, my husband's future, and so on? So I have a very quick temper. A little too quick, especially when it comes to ignorant people. I have this incredible need to tell them about themselves. But I also have to think about that when I see injustice, or I see someone, what happened at a grocery store. My sister and I were leaving, and I see this man screaming at one of the employees at the grocery store outside. And this employee maybe was 70 or 80. And clearly he didn't want to be there, but he was there. And this man is screaming at him for no reason, simply because he didn't know where the ATM machine was. And my first thought, which is what I did, is I went over there and started screaming at the man who was screaming at the employee. That's not a smart decision, but that's my first instinct. Had that man had a weapon, he could have killed me. But I didn't think about that. My first thought was, how dare you scream at this man, and nobody say anything and nobody do anything.
Like for me, I'll call out some small stuff. Like I did it today. There was a person that was parked in 2 spots. Like they just ripped into 1 2-spot thing, and they parked so close to my car. Like I was already parked there, so they barely just made it so I can open up my car door. And I literally was like, dude, fix your parking, asshole. And he just looked at me like, what? And I was like, that's not the right way to act, man. Like, I'm going to talk to you like a reasonable thing. Like, fix your parking, man. I want someone to correct me and make me fix my stuff too. And then I see someone like in a grocery store, for instance, yell at a woman for having 15 items in a 12 item or less. Are you kidding me? And I rationalize it. Like, I get it. You got to follow rules. If someone breaks the rules, you feel like you need to call them out on their shit. But this is all from psychology learning. And then also I realized that person is really he's at a level of 10 over something that you don't need to be at level 10 for. Why is he experiencing this? And then as I'm walking out of the store, I see he has a spare tire on his car. Okay, he probably just had a flat tire. Now he has to pay and do all these types of things. He's got problems. Like I said, we're not problem solving effectively. So I see it from that end. But I also tell people like I've seen a woman that's 30 years old, blonde hair, with her friend or whatever. Her kids just got dropped off at school or something. And she's like, I could tell she was mad about like not getting her Starbucks, Frappuccino, Mocha, whatever. And as soon as she gets to the counter, the store just opened up. I mean, the register, probably just got turned on. There was one woman in this department store, elderly woman. She's stacking things off to the side. She goes, ringing the bell over and over and over again. I'm 21 years old, and I'm noticing this. It's my first day off after weeks of working. And I'm like, I'm not even this in much of a hurry. I'm so chill right now. And it's 9:00 in the morning. And she's just like, come on, get over here, get over here, get over here. And I'm like, are you serious? The woman walks over, starts checking out, trying to pull the money out of the register. She's older, so she's slow. And he goes, oh my God, are you serious? And she's like, I'm sorry, ma'am. I had to do this. I'm the only one in the store right now. And then the woman leaves, and I just walk up to her like, I'm sorry. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I apologize for just the actions of people sometimes, because I'm 21 years old. I'm in a hurry too, but I'm in not that much of a hurry to make you feel like shit at all. And she goes, well, I appreciate that. And then we got into a little conversation. I said, I hope you have a wonderful day. And it's just that little thing, saying a good morning or saying a goodbye or saying something that can actually help somebody's mood in just the back of their mind. They remember, oh, there's still people out there that actually give a shit.
And that's what we have to do as a society. We have to start recognizing that our world is just our world. There's so much out there going on. Everyone else has their own little world too. And we have to stop and look at it and go, okay, like what you said, the person who was screaming about the 15 items, in a 12 item lane, you saw that he had a donut on his car. Yeah, he was probably pissed off, and then it escalated, because when people get mad, they need to lash out. And the first thing that they do is they lash out at customer service people. So we did a podcast on restaurant etiquette. And one of the first conversations that we had when it came to that was how people immediately think that they need to be treated like kings and queens. They walk in and you must serve me, you must do this, you must do that, and treat people like utter shit. Just because that person is serving you doesn't mean that you need to treat them like shit. Just because someone's in front of you or in your world that you feel is being disrespectful or doing you a disservice doesn't automatically give you the right to treat them like shit. They're another human being. And that's where I love where karma comes back, because I'll see people getting treated like shit, and usually my sister or myself are ones to come up and defend them. It's just a thing that we do. It's just a whole injustice thing.
It's a protector instinct. I have that too when it comes to my family and my friends and stuff. It's a loyalty thing.
It is. And when I see that and I want to tell them, are you really having that bad of a day? Is your life really that shitty that you have to go and you have to treat someone else that way? Someone that you know can't fight back because they're relying on that job to pay for their apartments or their cars or their kids to eat. You're not thinking about what's going on in their life. You're only thinking that your steak wasn't as rare as you wanted it. So now it's that server's fault. And that's the shit that just pisses me off. People are so engrossed in their own fucking needs and wants that they're not thinking about the world around them.
Yeah, I always, when I see someone call out or yell at someone in a store for not being quick or serving correctly, or maybe the food wasn't cooked properly, I just walk up to them like, they're bringing that back to the kitchen, right? And you know that you're yelling at people that make your food, right? And they just look at me like, what? And I'm like, just let that sink in for a minute. And then I walk away. Like, because that's a dangerous thing, obviously. It rarely ever happens. But I've known places that get uncovered for that shit, too, that, they end up dropping the food or something. And then next thing you know, they put it right back on the plate. And it's like, look, man, you're trusting people. Just know that people got spite in them as well. They're going to fucking want to kill you if you piss them off enough. There's that side to every human. Whether it comes in a threatening way or whether it comes in a passive-aggressive way, such as like, oh, you did the dishes, but you didn't put them away. I'll fucking lick every dish and put them back in the dishwasher. I don't care.
But it's true, because I worked in the service department, which is why we ended up doing the podcast, because my sister and I both did it. We would see it. I never personally tampered with food, but in the industries that I worked in, oh yeah, people got sneezers, people got food dropped, people got extra things in their drinks.
You said sneezers. You said sneezers.
Well, it's sneezers. That's what they would do. And
appetizer.
It was very common. And I worked in a lot of fast food chains when I was growing up. So the ones that, oh, it won't happen to you. Yes, it will happen to you. Because put yourself in that situation. If someone is screaming and yelling at you and making you feel like shit, and you can't yell back because it's your job, but you have a way to get revenge, you're going to be fucking tempted to do it. So you have to look at that. So Brandy and I our first thoughts are never nice or polite, but our actions always are, because we're always going to be that nice person until we're not. We're always going to be respectful. We're always going to go out of our way. But the minute that you get disrespectful, the minute that you do something that is immoral, then our nice switches off and you're going to get the real side of us. But our first instinct in our head is not what we act. So it's kind of that fight against being an asshole. And some people just don't have that internal monitor to say, oh, wait, I'm not going to be an asshole to this person because I'm mad because this and this happened, and that's not really that person's fault. So why am I going to take it out on them?
Yeah, and it's the same concept. Like, I know people, like my aunt, for instance, she says she says what's on her mind, and it's never ever nice. It is the meanest, dark, like it's some twisted, corrupt shit, like stuff you don't want to say to people. And I'm like, you're not really speaking your mind. You're just being very, very blunt and being very, very brash, which is needed in some cases. But a lot of the times, like, death happened or something. She was always kind of mean anyway. It's like, what the hell? Like, that's your family. Like, what are you saying? And it's like, well, I just say what's on my mind. I'm like, so does your she's from Brazil, so that's their kind of values down there, speak what's on their mind. And I understand it from that aspect, but I'm like, there's also a ratio and this inner moderator inside us all, like that second voice that tells us, hey, don't be a dick. Say it in a better way if you're going to say it, or, address it in a calmly manner. Everything does not need to be a confrontation. But see, what we became in this world today is when you don't have conflict in your everyday life, such as something not going your way or something, that's a little bit, oh, that wasn't planned, or maybe just an argument or maybe a disagreement, you start to look for it somewhere else. So where you'll look for it is in reality television. Why that's very, very popular. It's because it shows literally a fake act of problems and emotions that make you go like, ah, yeah, and you start to feel it in the back of your head. It's a little chemical release in your brain. You're like, ah, shit, like I didn't have an argument today. I want to watch Jersey Shore. The next thing you know, you're like, that's too much Jersey Shore. Like, it's all for views because they know that's what people prey upon. The media preys upon the fact that you want to be aware of things around you, but they take it to an extent where it's like shoveling shit down your throat. You just can't get enough to the point where you feel suffocated.
Well, I purposely don't watch documentary movies or any drama or romantic movies. One, romantic movies, they all have the same damn plot line, which pissed me off, so I can't do it. I like sci-fi, fantasy, because I'm putting myself in a situation where if I'm going to sit down at a movie theater in front of my TV, I want to be entertained. I don't want to be sad or depressed or cry. That's not the shit that I want to do. The world is enough of that. And it does prey on it because look at how many post-apocalyptic movies there are out there. And how many are actually positive post-apocalyptic movies? None, because people want to see the devastation. They want to see the sad or the trauma that comes with it. One of my biggest issues, and I loved Game of Thrones, but one of my biggest issues with it was the graphic scenes towards women. You can imply something. You don't have to show it. Why are you showing it? Why are you putting people in a situation where they see something that dramatic, that disgusting as entertainment? You can't look at it like that.
You're talking to probably the small percentage of this population that has never seen an episode of Game of Thrones. Only on the aspect of when I decided to maybe watch an episode, it was like the season just came back and something happened where everyone was talking about how they literally cried in it. And I was like, that's too much. That is too much. This is something I do not feel like getting involved in, but you'll love it. And I'm like, I don't need to love it that much to where I cry about it. I'm good. I'll watch Titanic if I want to get a good cry in or something, When I see Leo go down, I'm like, oh, shit.
Not Leo. He could fit on the door. He could totally fit on the door.
He could have easily moved her ass over.
That damn bitch. She didn't move. Selfish.
Women and children first. No, fuck it. Leonardo DiCaprio first, and then we go everybody else.
Oh, well, in those scenes, when it comes to movies or TV shows that we know will have those graphic scenes, I will leave the room and then my husband will just fill me in. Because
Old Yeller.
I can't. No, I can't.
They played that in school for me.
That's
and I was like, what is he doing? Where is he going with that gun?
No, not the gun.
Then here's a shot and you're like, oh my God, he killed his dog.
But they didn't show it. They implied it.
It's that point, though. It's like that you know what happened. Did he miss? You didn't hear another shot go off.
Well, look at all the Disney movies. I mean, Simba's father dies. Bambi's mother dies. Nemo's mother dies. What the hell? These are children movies, and you're talking about removing one of the parents in order to make it a happy movie. That's not a fucking happy movie, killing off a family member.
It's because most they want the heroic tale, the comeback story. They want you see the tremendous amount of pain and then you see them rise above it. That whole aspect is so fascinating with people. It resonates inside because people, that experience kind of like a childhood of crap or something, and they choose to make them. It's supposed to display this kind of projected way of trying to form you into overcoming your issues. And I'm like, it's also a really fucking bad way to, display a movie, especially a happy time movie. It seems like, the DC universe does it, but it is kind of good in the aspect of all their heroes are people that suffer from something and then something happens to them that turns them into something. It's not like Marvel universe where they already were born with the powers or, they developed them in a fun way or something. No, like Batman lost his family, lost this and then became who he is, the Avenger in all this. And it's like, you get to see that. And I think a lot of people don't take in that realist aspect as well, that a lot of the media, anything you see out in the world today, it may be good, but it's only good because your attention now has been hooked to a dramatic kind of detriment to someone's life. That's why we laugh at videos of people in pain. AFV, for instance, America's Funniest Videos, people getting hurt. You like watching that, and we get a laugh out of it. And that's when you start to realize something in yourself, like, why am I laughing at another person's pain?
Exactly. I'd rather watch the silly goats screaming, because that shit's fucking hilarious, than watch
That
somebody
Doritos commercial.
Oh my God.
When he goes and opens up the cabinet and I hear, ah! Like that, I swear to God, I die every time that comes up. I laugh so hard.
I love the screaming goats. That's one of my favorite things to watch with my son, because it's funny, and watching animals do funny shit. Those are the videos that I like to watch, because they're fucking hilarious. Except I do go down the rabbit hole with YouTube. We actually just did a podcast on YouTube. But instant karma videos where people are being complete and utter dicks, and then instant karma.
Trying to steal a purse, and they go to hop on like whatever
motorcycle.
Yeah, and then they
kick
stands down or something,
Yeah. Those are good.
It's stuff like that for sure. Like I definitely I enjoy if you want to talk about, like, it was funny because with the goat thing, my buddy owns a goat farm. And he was telling me about it, and he was like, dude, there's just these goats. So we would always drive by, and there's these little baby goats, and they would stack themselves up on top of each other to climb over a fence, like a ladder, basically. But the weirdest thing was, you just be sitting there, and all I hear is, like, really, really loud. I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? And he's like, dude, we get that all the time. I'm like, whoa, like, that's got to be scary. You want to talk about a rooster waking you up? You're just getting woken up to bloody screams in the morning.
And they sound like little kids screaming. This shit's so funny. I was crying. I was laughing so hard. But those are the things that I like to show my son, like the funny side of the world. When he watches stuff, he likes to watch people play video games. So Minecraft and so on YouTube. And there's one called Preston Plays that he watches. The kid doesn't swear. He's very cartoonish with how he speaks and plays and so on, but he's geared towards smaller kids like my son's age, and that's positive fun, positive reinforcement, and things that he does. And those are the types of videos that I let my son watch. But going back to what we were talking about, when people have shitty days and they want to take it out on other people, that's what fucking video games are for. Go play Gears of War and chainsaw a fucking alien or some shit like that. Like, that's how I got out my frustration.
I did it. I love that about you. Thank you that you mentioned chainsawing somebody. But no, it's the whole concept
Gears
of
War is great.
I did a case study in school. I actually wrote a paper on it, and it did get published. It was about video games and violence, and people saying that video games create violent people. That is not true. That means movies would do the same shit. Now, what the concept of this is, if you, like, for me, I ran over hookers all the time in Grand Theft Auto. I've never ran over a hooker in my everyday life. It does not happen, okay? It does not spray intent. The problem is, if you're likely to shoot up a store, if you're likely to do that anyway, and you play video games, that's what it gets looked at. Oh, he played video games. No, that person was likely to do it anyway. The problem is, in my prediction, I hate to say it, but I feel like in a way of where shootings are happening, like, constantly, it seems like there's always something new about it. Kids are now doing shooter drills and stuff at school. It's very scary, but it's only the number is going to increase. And the problem is, people, they're getting suppressed too much. They're not getting their way of explaining who they are out there. They're not having this inner thing inside of them, and it's making them feel like the only way that they can get themselves heard. It's like, you're getting into an argument with someone and they're not letting you talk, and then eventually you have to break down or something, maybe tear up, and then they realize, oh wait, you're actually really, really hurt over something. That's what their form of expression was. And it really sucks, is because the news hasn't figured out not to publish their name. The best part about media when they went over or talked about a terrorist attack is not only giving you the information that there's this incident that happened, but it's a tragedy, but they never published the person's name because they didn't want that person getting credit, because that would just inspire more terroristic attacks. But now you hear a shooter, we don't consider this terrorism. We consider this a type of just an incident or a threat. So they published the shooter's name. That's going to inspire more people that feel like that's what they need to do just to get their minute of glory and do that. I'm like, stop. video games aren't that violent cause, okay? Blood and guts, all that stuff. That I don't ever want to shoot up someone in my whole entire life, and I can play Call of Duty every day. It doesn't mean anything to me because it's a game. It's the idea of separating reality from non-reality. That people like, I got an addiction when I was a kid with my Xbox. It became like a best friend to me. I would get upset really easily. Also, if anybody tried to take it away, I would get into a fighting like position because I didn't have my parents worked 2 jobs. Nobody was home. My brother was older than me. I had nobody but my Xbox, a way to communicate with my friends until I could eventually get a car or go out and travel on my own. And it was a way of connecting. I would bond with that thing. You create unhealthy relationships with objects as well, such as your Xbox. You can become bonded to it. It's where a kid can get overly upset where it seems like it's a problem. It's called unhealthy addiction, and that can happen to any item or any substance, anything.
Well, and that's speaking of substance, this is one of the things, and people are probably going to attack me on, but people can get addicted, like you said, to items, to substances, to drugs, to your Xbox, to your phone, and so on. But to sit there and say, like with alcoholism, to sit there and say, well, abstinence is the best way. Well, people who are addicted to food, abstinence is not the best way. They're going to fucking die. They need nutrition. You have to first figure out the root cause as to why that addiction happened. Like you were saying, you were alone. That was the only way you can communicate with your family because your parents were working 2 jobs. Your brother was older. So this was your friend. This was your outlet. This is what brought you happiness. So figuring out that root cause as to why you become addicted to it, understanding that and treating the cause, you don't have to remove it. Removing it doesn't do anything. Well, let's just take it away. So when you do get faced with it, you haven't fixed shit. You're immediately going to go right back into the same old habits. You have to look at yourself, look at your life and go, okay, why am I doing this? I used to be fat because I would emotionally eat. I looked at myself one day and I was like, holy shit, this is not how I want my life to be. So I stopped eating so much. And it took time. And I had to figure out why did I immediately go to food. Now, food tastes fucking good. Sorry, nothing's better than a Twinkie.
It's the chemical
Twinkies are awesome.
response. It's the chemical response in your brain. It creates that
It is.
serotonin. It's a chemical. It really breeds. It's like the dopamine from your cell phone. People get addicted to technology, get addicted to their phones. I became addicted to video games. I can tell you right now, I can't sit down for 5 minutes to play a video game anymore. 7 years ago, I signed up for a gym membership, changed my life. I ended up now it's almost 7 years going on. December 30th will be 7 years. That's every single day I've went to the gym, and I have not missed a day since I started. Have not missed one. I go Christmas, birthday, all that. I always go. It doesn't matter if it's a fucking blizzard outside. I'm there because I changed my life, and I realized the amount of work I put in. It's my stress relief, first of all. All my problems go away, but persistence. I said I was going to stick to something, and I stick with it. Same thing with podcasting. New episode every single day, new person every single time. When it comes to consistency, when it comes to persistence, my grandpa gave me the best advice. He literally said, if you try and do anything, make sure you give it your all. Because if you're giving it nothing or very little, you're not going to ever make it into something. And I said, you're right. I took that advice. I had wisdom along the way that helped structure me where some people might not have it. I'm glad at this age, I feel like an okay head on my shoulders when it comes to I've never ordered alcohol. I'm 21 years old, never had a legal drink. I had experiences with drinking that were really bad when I was a kid. Just a very few. I drank a whole bottle of Fireball in one sitting. I have my whole family on my dad's side's alcoholics. So that was something in my life where I was like, that is not something I want to be. I have a high tolerance for it, and I realized that's a problem. So I'm not going to affect it into my life. Also, I did drugs, obviously. Wasn't for me. I got too high, threw up, or fucking had a weird ass experience where I felt like, some shit was going on in my head. But it also helped me see the world in a different view. Colors, it seems like I know another perception, another reality or something. So it seems like I understand, like there's a sense of realness to things. Like you were saying, looking over and seeing the bay out your porch or out your window or something. I live in a beach town. We have the ocean on one side, the bay on another. I remember the days, and I still try and do it every single morning when I'm up at 4:00 in the morning. I'll take a coffee, walk outside, a nice deep breath. You get that nice salt water. that salty air just fill your lungs. Oh my God, there's nothing clearer than that. Oh,
It's really not.
it's a sense of relaxation inside it that hits you down into your bones, where it's
It
just like
does.
I feel like I could take on the day. But people nowadays, they wake up, oh, they're running late for work, they have to run out. They don't enjoy these things anymore, and they look over them, and after a while, they're not there anymore. And when I mean they're not there anymore, they're always going to be there, but you don't care about it anymore. You don't care about having that sense of connection, sitting with your family and just hearing the munching of food, or just the laughter. You got to enjoy those times, because they're the ones you're going to look back on, and you don't want to get memory or nostalgia off your phone, because it's not going to be important in the long end, I guess.
No, and that's true. One of my favorite memories, and this was only a few months ago, was us sitting down having dinner and me, my son, and my husband telling each other your mama jokes.
Yeah.
And it was fucking awesome. I mean, granted, my son's telling me your mama's so fat and I'm his mama, but the shit was fucking hilarious. And we're doing it in the house. I mean, clearly my son's not going to go to school and start telling your mama jokes because he knows better, but that shit was fucking funny. And then we're playing Yahtzee, or we're playing, King of Tokyo. And that's the shit that we remember when we're looking at each other and we're laughing and we're having fun, and we're not looking at our phones, or we're not looking at my son playing football through my phone. I'm actually experiencing it in front. I'm using my eyes, not through my phone, to see what he's doing. And a lot of times people are just so engrossed in the technology of their phones, or they're not seeing the world around, like what you said, stopping and smelling that bay air and the ocean air. It means something. We love looking at we have 2 huge elm trees in our backyard, and woodpeckers love them. And my son just loves to watch the woodpeckers or the squirrels running around. And that's meaningful. That's life around you, and you can't get those moments back, and you have to remember them. Those are the good things. That's what brings the positivity in your life.
It's part of the reason why when I get stuff on Christmas, I just ask them to leave me a card. Write something inside of it. I want to see the stuff that you mean circled in it. I want you to actually do that. Don't put the money in the card. I know that sounds like, all right, that's what all kids say. No, legit, I get angry if you put money in my card, because I don't want that. Like, my grandparents will hand it to me outside of the cards, and I'm like, thank you, I appreciate that. It's going to go to like toilet paper and shit. So I poop a lot. So, and I'm like, but I have a,
Savage.
yeah, it literally is. Yeah. And it's, I tell them, like, I have a little shoebox, and it's in my podcast room. It's up in my closet over here. And it's literally filled with all these cards from every year for birthday, Easter, whatever. And I have cards from my great grandfather that is no longer with us. And when I read it, I can see it like, hey, Robbie, love you lots. You're going to be something one day. Keep on doing what you're doing. And it's like, damn, it's like, but I hear his voice played in my head. That's stuff I look back on. I had moments when I was a kid camping, with my dad. 2 o'clock in the morning, we're eating a bushel of crabs. I'm 14 years old. How the hell was that, like, not like no parent addressed that? He was like, dude, we're gonna eat some seafood. We're gonna tear some stuff up. I'm like, Dad, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. He's like, I know, isn't this awesome? I'm like, it is fucking awesome. Blue moon, dude, it was beautiful. And then I look at times, Christmas, if it was Christmas night, we just, presents were all over, everybody's asleep. It's me and my dad sitting, playing Rock Band on the big screen TV. I come from a music family. My dad plays drums, plays in a Kiss tribute band. So he's met Gene Simmons. He's met everybody. He's been in a commercial with Kiss where he's actually, he plays the cat. So that's how I knew my dad, that Kiss guy. And we're playing Rock Band's the only game he can really play, because besides Wii and all that, like bowling or something. But he was playing drums. He broke it first night I got it. First night he started playing like it was his actual drum set. Clack! The whole thing snapped down. I just looked at him. I said, bruh. Said, I'll buy you another one. I
Aw.
mean, it was those connections. It was like those funny moments we look back on. And it's like, that stuff, like, I don't, I'm older now. I don't live with him anymore. I still see him every now and again, but it's like every like family reunion or whatever. It's like, but I still remember those times. I look back on those moments, especially in hard times. And you gotta have these moments, especially when you're with your family, because they're not always going to be there forever. It doesn't matter their age. One day they could just be gone. You never know what you have until it's gone.
Exactly. And you don't. And you have to remember that, because yes, people want to sit there and say, I hate this. YOLO, you only live once. No, motherfucker, you don't only live once. You only die once. You live every fucking day of your life, and you need to treat it as such. You need to experience something new every single day. Make it a point to experience or learn something new every single day, because it's going to make you a better person in the long run. And it's going to make you appreciate it. I don't want to be old and gray and thinking about the shit that I could have done. I want to be going, damn, I can't believe I did that, and enjoying the memories.
Yeah. I mean, that's this shit right there. I'm telling you. That's what it is. Another name drop. Loving it. Well,
I love my name.
well, Amanda, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's really been awesome talking to you. And I want to give you here a minute at the end to kind of promote your content so people can see your stuff.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun. Definitely enjoyed it. Our podcast is called This Shit Right Here. Shit is with an exclamation point, not an I, because we had to be unique. And we're available on every podcast app you can get. And it's just basically us just talking about all different kinds of shit, everything from human rights to rude shit and nasty behaviors and pretty much all that shit.
Calling people out on some shit too.
Oh, hell yes. We call people out on a lot of shit, because the way I look at it is, if you don't like it, don't fucking listen to it.
Bam, I love that concept. Well, thank you so much for being on this episode Out of the Blanket. Stay tuned for our next episode.